Hello and welcome to Edison TV. Today I'm joined by Arnoud Star Busmann, CEO of MineHub. MineHub are a platform focused on digitizing commodity supply chains, so copper and other supply chains. The company's recently announced a very significant acquisition of Waybridge, which we're going to discuss later. It's listed on the TSX and is currently capitalized at around 34 million Canadian dollars. Arnoud, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And can we start with the basics? So MineHub digitizes commodity supply chains. Can you discuss that in a bit more depth and explain how you're approaching the market?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that is a high-level statement. If it requires you to take a little step back in terms of what the challenges are in supply chains. I mean, they've been left right and center on front pages of newspapers, like, for instance, resilience, breakdown of supply chains. We've seen huge fraud cases. One of them becoming very visible last week with the traffic incident. We see increasing pressure on compliance. Where's the material coming from, particularly regulations? It's hopelessly inefficient. So there's a number of challenges that the supply chains face. And if you then you can't solve all of them by point solutions. You need to go to the hard problem. And the hard problem is that it's very information intensive. If you think about buying a ton of copper now, you buy the copper for the utility value. You want to smelt it into something, right? But what you're actually more and more buying is not just the physical material, but also the information around it. Because to buy, you need to know, where does it come from? What is the copper content? How much is it worth? Who owns it? Who has owned it before? How many emissions, right? All that information becomes absolutely crucial to what you're buying. Now, that information is currently not easily available. It is locked up in hundreds of documents that are being exchanged between 30 parties and reconciled and verified, etc. So it's very hard to get the information, and not having it is becoming increasingly risky and can shut you out of markets. What MineHub does is really help companies automate and get that information instantly in real time. So take away the effort, but also help them improve risk management, help them improve access to capital, access to markets, improve compliance, all those aspects. That's what we do.
Excellent, thank you. And as I understand, the solution can be deployed in a number of different areas of the commodity supply chain and across a number of different commodities. It seems like a bit of a network effect business, essentially. So can you discuss how you're going around building critical mass, which areas you're focusing on, and perhaps which companies you're working with who are going to give you that scale?
Sure, that's a great question. So we have, indeed, it's a network play. And for network play to create value for its network participants, you need to get to a certain scale and critical mass. To get to critical mass, you first need to break network effects that work against you, right? This is the adoption curve. And it's very important that who are the early adopters and who set the example. So and who can get us to that critical mass on everybody's behalf. So we've been focused really on which parties can take us to critical mass in which markets. So we've invested significantly in working with the largest companies in these markets. Particularly, for instance, it's well published that we work with BHP and Sumitomo Corporation and others that have a certain industry leadership that can set that example. That has taken us starting in iron ore, but as we've seen the acceleration really in the copper markets, where now we are on a path to critical mass, actually, that I'm pretty excited about. And last Christmas, we started running the numbers in terms of we've got this massive pipeline, this massive group of companies that we're talking to all over the world. So how relevant are they? How big is that group? And what do they represent? And for us, it's about tonnage that's important. So we started adding it up, and we figured that we are talking to, 50% of global mining production. That's what we're talking to as customers, prospects, etc. Various stages. We are engaged with 2/3 of the smelter capacity in China and Japan in copper. So it's substantial, particularly for a small startup, right? And that gives us confidence. So if I'd say we are really focused on copper supply chains, where we can get to that critical mass, we also we solve big problems there. Assay exchange is a pain point for most of the mining companies and the smelters. Visibility on where is my shipment, where are my cathodes, where is my vessel. Sounds ludicrous, but that is a hard question to answer in many supply chains, right? If you can and Amazon, you know exactly where your pair of socks is that you just ordered, but where your $30 million worth of copper concentrate is, it's hard to assess. And the other one that's increasingly important is compliance, but particularly ESG and emissions accounting, because to keep access to customers, to keep access to markets, you need to start having the data. And that's where we're helping companies as well.
Excellent. And on the subject of adding critical mass, you know, the big news over the last week or so is the acquisition of Waybridge. Can you talk to that and the synergies that that brings to the business?
Oh, I can talk for hours on that one. It's such a fantastic opportunity. So as I mentioned, we're on the path towards getting critical mass in markets, particularly in copper. We're starting on the mining side, start working with the smelters, and then work our way downstream towards the fabricators. Waybridge comes from the other side. They work with some huge companies like Southwire, for instance, on the fabricator side, and work their way upstream to the smelters and then ultimately to the mining companies. We started to meet in the middle, right? And we started talking about how wasteful it is that we're both going for the same goal, which means that we're going to duplicate investment in functionality and roadmap. We're going to compete, making it harder for companies to make a decision, and we're duplicating a lot of investments as well. As we started having those discussions, should we not be teaming up? Should we not be partnering? Opportunity came around Christmas. Said, hey, why don't we formalize this and amalgamate really under the MineHub corporate structure, because we've got the setup in the capital markets, which is very helpful in these markets today. Now, what is exciting is the synergies, the immediate synergies, and the shareholder value it creates as well. If we look at, for our customers, we have all our customers get value as exponential value increase as the network grows, because suddenly their customers and suppliers are on there. We are fast forwarding that network value by 1 or 2 years because we come from complementary sides, and suddenly we're clicking it like puzzle pieces together. So the customers are incredibly excited about what we're doing here, right? Based on the feedback from the last couple of days. For the teams, it's fantastic because it becomes a real company. I mean, both of us are around the same size. We're suddenly 35 people across the world. Market coverage. We were very focused on the flows from South America and Australia to Asia, particularly China and Japan. Waybridge is very focused on the flows coming into the US market and North America from all over the world. Again, if we click those together, suddenly we have got presence and customers in the 3 biggest industrial markets, USA, China, Japan, and we've got presence and operations also in the key mining jurisdictions, right? So fantastic synergy there. It reduces, I think, the risk in both companies. We're startups, but together with the combined traction that we have with customers, suddenly we are no longer dependent on 1 or 2 key customers, right? We've got multiple revenue generating contracts between the 2 of us. I think for our shareholders, if I just purely look at the financial aspects, we will be fast forwarding our break-even point because we significantly increasing revenue as MineHub, and we have particularly cost synergies in our roadmap. There's the teams, I mean, coming together. It's fantastic that everybody stays, right? That's not where we're doing this. It's not a headcount rationalization. The other thing is, if you look at our growth curve, it's an exponential curve. Start slow, but then start growing with adoption. We're fast forwarding on an exponential growth curve. So that's a fantastic one. We are looking at the value of transaction. I would say that the amount is actually totally does not reflect the value of the business, which is a great opportunity for MineHub shareholders, in the sense that we are significantly increasing our business and our revenue for just a small dilution. So it's a fantastic deal.
And then going back to the acquisition, I mean, now you've completed the transaction. You know, what are your key next priorities in terms of integrating the business commercially, technologically, and so on?
absolute priority is keeping our focus on our customers and delivering. We both got aggressive roadmaps. We've got demanding customers and with high expectations. So the worst thing that we could do is drop the ball on that one and start focusing. We don't product integration is something we'll do over time, but that's not a priority. It's fraught with risk and it will distract us from serving our customers. So let's keep going there, keep signing these new contracts, and keep serving our customers. That's the absolute priority, and then we'll figure it out over the next period in terms of how do we optimize. We've got certain elements on our roadmap, and we say, well, maybe we shouldn't do that, right? Maybe that's better for the Waybridge platform, or maybe there's certain aspects that Waybridge has on their roadmap, on our roadmap now, and maybe we should build it on top of MineHub. So we'll figure that out as we go. What I found incredibly exciting about this post-merger integration is we've got two teams coming together that have faced the same challenges, have lived through the same pains as a startup, deeply understand the customers and the pain points, have a common vision on where we need to go and how to get there. We're both in growth mode, so that alignment is perfect, right? So
the cultural fit as much as many.
And how do acquisitions or mergers break down? It's usually cultural issues and people issues, like who's going to get that job, right? We don't have that. There's no competition for jobs. There's no competition for attention. The cultural similarity is very strong. It's fantastic.
It ticks a lot of the boxes, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's 5 Christmases at once. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And just moving on to the commercial progress. I mean, can you discuss, I guess, the key commercial milestones of the business that you've made to date, and also, I guess, the key milestones that investors should look for as you execute your business plan to make sure that, you know, for them to be confident you're on that hockey stick curve as you talked to.
Yeah. So we are a SaaS business. We provide platform as a service. Our metric that we use and Waybridge use as well is not necessarily the number of customers, which tends to be the case in other SaaS businesses. We look at metric tons on platform. So if we deal with a customer, if we onboard a new customer, we get really excited if that's one of the largest producers in the industry rather than an individual customer. So it's, yes, the number of customers indicates a little bit of adoption. So we will publish that as we are allowed to bring it out in their material contracts that we sign. But the volumes, in terms of tonnage, that's the most important leading indicator, because our business model is derived on the back of those volumes.
Great. And then can you talk to how you expect the commercial progress, you know, and that increase in tonnage to then follow through into the financial profile of the business as you grow?
Yeah, exactly. Because we ultimately, our business model is based on charging a fee per metric ton.
Right.
It's very simple, because the value we generate for our customers is based on the tonnage, the level of usage. So if you can charge 25 cents or a dollar per metric ton of copper, and you have 20 million tons of copper, like the total industry on the platform, you can do some math in terms of what that means from a financial perspective. But that's just the fees on the tonnage. There's once the information is digital, there's a numerous amount of markets that you can tap into. A huge one is trade finance, right? Because we mitigate risk for financiers. That adds to the value opportunity as well, whether it's tonnage or whether that's exposure-based revenue. We've in previous transaction we did, we looked at a percentage of the number of basis points of the exposure that we charge there, which could flow into this trade finance model as well. Ultimately, if you think about the data that's being generated on the network, it's not our data, it's our customers' data, but we are in a position where we can help them aggregate and monetize that information. Think about the big agencies that have built huge businesses around this, right? So once it's digital, there's so much value that can be unlocked.
Fascinating stuff. Arnoud, many thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you.